and welcome to Hatecast. Today I have the lovely Aodhan here joining us today. Hi Aodhan, how are you today?
Hi Andy, yeah, I'm very good. Yeah, things are going well. It's been a lovely morning.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm going to guess you're familiar with the format of the show, where we have a series of questions we're going to ask you. We ask everyone,
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to give us your answer. Before we get into those questions, if someone saw you down at the club, what would you be doing? You know, if they saw you, who are you, Aodhan? What do you do?
So I do many things. I think mainly you'd probably find me playing Infinity these days, but I spent a long time playing 40k specifically. I very rarely dabble with like fantasy or history. Much more into the future fantasies, whether they be dark or kind of dark but not quite so grim. Either dystopian or dystopian. Yeah, so it's a good time.
Like calories of ordinary dystopia.
Yeah. But yeah, so other than that, or maybe find me painting. Occasionally, I've been doing that, and I just adore that side of the hobby as well.
Yeah, because Aodhan's being very modest in me. He says, you might find me doing an odd bit of painting. He's a very good painter.
Yeah, but rarely down the club. Like occasionally, I might come down. I'm normally trying to make sure I have a game sorted.
You might see you post up a section of a leg you've painted every now and then.
Yeah, exactly. Like a very specific piece of model.
Yeah, not a whole model. That would be.
Of course not. That would be crazy.
That'd be madness. Anyway, let's get on with the questions. Thanks, Aodhan. Let's get started. So, easy one to start with. What's on your workbench? What are you working on at the moment?
So currently, I am working on the new Infinity Calstrom box. It's working with a slightly simpler version of the rules to try and cut the learning curve down for newer players. But also, I just had this idea that I think there are a couple of people at my workplace that might be interested, and so if I could get a 45-minute game at work, like that would be amazing. But also the fact that Yulia and I have been collecting Infinity for a while, and it's nice to have something that we can play together. Because we don't have a board at home, it's just, yeah, it'd be good to be able to have
a board game then? Is that how it works?
Well, no, it's just like a much smaller form factor. It's like you've got a little mat that's maybe a couple of feet long. Yeah, you can fit it on a dining table rather than
the kill team of Infinity.
So yeah, kind of. It does scale up afterwards, but yeah, it starts off small.
Cool. I have to check that out, as I've been painting some Infinity models myself.
Oh yeah, I've seen. They're coming on really well. As usual, you just smash them out in a day, and then
it was 3 nights, 3 evenings.
Okay, 3 nights, fine.
Rattle cans to prime.
Yeah, amazing.
Bit of wash, done.
Yeah, of course.
They're not as nice as yours. If you look at them closely, like, these aren't as nice as Ravens.
But the thing is, it's like, I've had to come to terms with the fact that I can't spend that much time on things, and I would love to have things at a certain standard, but when it comes down to it, you've been teaching me for years, and I've still not got quite this fast at stuff. So.
I steal it from Jaded Gamercast, but there is a phrase. My favorite color is done.
Of course, yeah. You mentioned that many times.
Yeah, favorite color is done. So, what are you reading at the moment? What's on your bedside table?
So actually, what's currently on my bedside table is not in any way hobby oriented.
That's fine.
I'm currently reading one of the Marie Kondo books, because in this current situation, I'm trying to cut down a lot of things. And
I bought a Marie Kondo book and I held it in my hand. It didn't bring me any joy, so I just threw it away.
Nice. I mean, like, that's the way to do it, right? But no, because I recently realized that I've not touched, especially any of my heresy stuff, for a long time. So yeah, that was just kind of a catalyst for looking at how I'm living my life at the moment, and just see those.
A lot of us, I think most of us, are spending a little bit more time in our homes these days than we were before.
Yeah. I wonder.
So I've sort out my stuff. I'm going to be, after the lockdown, bring it down to the club and saying, who wants some rhinos? Buy some rhinos off me. But I've got a whole pile of stuff that I'm going to get rid of, and we've got a bag for the charity shop. You sort of get a real feeling of like, do I really need this?
Yeah. No, of course.
CD collection, for example.
Yeah, physical media is an interesting one, right? Like,
I have Apple Music, so I can listen to nearly anything I want instantaneously. It's just. I'm sure I don't have to explain to you, Aidan, the sunk loss fallacy.
Sunk cost, yeah, of course. No, I realised this in time.
I spent hundreds of pounds on those CDs.
Yeah, same. I mean, like that's.
But I spent money on them. I can't just throw them away.
But this is my copy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's tricky, right?
I haven't listened to any of those CDs for over 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this isn't my therapy session about my music.
No, exactly, right? Like, just try and stick to the thing we decided to do.
Yes, it's a good idea. So I'm saying, I've been through my collection and trimmed things down, and it's good to hear that you're being very sensible about your collection too, because if you're not using it, then
I mean, that's the thing. There's only finite time, and prioritization of what we want to do with our hobby time is important. Otherwise, you just kind of flip between projects and don't actually do anything. Well, I was very much talking about myself here because
I was thinking of you two, like you
have a million products and get them all projects and get them all done. And
me.
I get I take on far too many things and then flip between them and never finish anything. So I'm trying to be more get something finished and done.
At least I finish mine.
Yeah, exactly right.
And then never play with them. They go in a box.
But you completed it. You've done it. Like, that's the point.
Yes. It's done, yes. And then in 2 years' time, when they go, oh, we should play French-Indian Wars, I can go, yes.
I've got that.
Anyway, well, that's good to hear. So, Mary Connor, you're finding it a good book? You'd recommend it?
I'd say so. I mean, like, there are simple things. Like, it's got large type. Like, it's quite easy to get through. It could probably be about half the size, but yeah, it's enjoyable. It's definitely something that, like, it's a nice thing to read before bed. Like, it's kind of think of how you'd approach stuff, and not necessarily even from just a tidying idea, but because in the last couple of years I've had like a really big switch in like the way I think about stuff. So yeah, it's definitely helpful in that way.
I think when you're younger, if you're like me out there, that you have less money, so you're desperately trying to accumulate models, and then there's a switch in midway through your life where you start getting maybe a bit more money coming in, and then you get to the point where you're like, oh, I need to stop accumulating models because I've got lots.
Yeah,
it's looking at a shelf of models.
It's somewhat debilitating sometimes, but also I love it. So
I love it. It brings me joy. I got to keep it.
Bring it back.
And here's the toughest one of the first three questions. What does gaming mean to you?
I think mainly it has to be like camaraderie. I've always been really interested in this stuff, and it has been great getting back into it after what was it, like the usual 15 years gap or something. And but for me it was really, I was working in game when I got back into a friend of mine there basically just like kept teasing me with different Eldar models because I'd always loved them, and so I ended up starting playing with him and a couple other people in Windsor. And then when I met the guys like Sasha and Dan, Toby, Monk, and Michael, I think James maybe as well, up at Warhammer Worlds, just before we'd actually started the club properly in London, like before we had the first nights at Electroworks.
Yep.
Sorry?
I went there. That was my first time at the club.
Okay. Yeah. So like that's just really been a thing for me, and it's been amazing over the last like 5 so years that's been happening. It's just really kind of pulled me out of myself, and without them, like I owe the club a lot. It's been fantastic, and so gaming in myself, like I do like to win, but I'm not used to winning. So it's like if I can enjoy my games, like when I'm being beaten, then and just having the people around me that I just it's been amazing, and that's what I feel the gaming is for me, is that social aspects.
No, much so.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I can't really put anything else to it apart from just having that feeling of like we're all there to do this same thing, even if we have like different idiosyncratic ways of doing it. And that's fantastic.
Yeah, you do. I think everyone has a different way of playing.
Mm-hmm.
And you different personalities, and But you can all agree on the game. You all get together to have fun. That's why we're there, to have fun, really. So
Yeah, no, exactly. I guess we have we take this time out of our lives to enjoy it, right? So we might as well make sure everyone's enjoying it. And yeah, and just coming from that, obviously we may be different in some ways to other clubs because of that, but yeah, it's great, and that's what brings me back to gaming all the time.
Perfect, excellent. We'll take a quick break. I'll be back. Gary's probably going to put some exciting music in here.
Fantastic.
Speak to you in a moment.
Cool.
Which is why I can never go to Malta anymore, at least not till they replace it. So Aidan's back. I've got start off with a nice, easy question for you, Aidan. What artists inspire you?
That is a very tricky one. Rembrandt, definitely. I think that I'd love to be able to work that kind of level of light and contrast into my work. And
yeah, having studied your particular painting style, you do shadow and light. That's something I've noticed with you that I've then tried to do myself. On the infinity models I'm painting now, I've been inspired by looking at you. So I try to do like a heavy shadow, so I can see how Rembrandt would be a big influence for you.
Yeah, it's just like I was always into art history when I was younger, never good as an artist until I tried now. But yeah. I would consider, it's still in a way for me is kind of like painting by numbers. I feel even though it's very intense and trying to understand how like reflections and things work on metal and like it's still like I'm looking at a thing and doing it. It doesn't always feel creative. But yeah, no, there are definitely things from that, and obviously there are some amazing artists like that within the hobby as well. Like so, we've got our Henrys,
yeah,
both fantastic, and we
got amazing artists. We always have to mention Ed. Hi, Ed.
Ed, of course, yeah, has an amazing style. I keep kicking myself for not having his comic books, but I will eventually sort out at some point. I've still not read them.
I know that Ed listens to the show, so he will hunt you down probably. And
yeah, it's been many a time when I've said, yeah, I'm going to do it, and then just been a flake. So Ed, I do apologize. But
to learn more about Ed's comic books, subscribe and comment below.
Of course. And ding that bell.
Ding that bell.
Showing.
Rembrandt.
Yeah. And then, so within the hobby, I took a couple of courses with Banshee, Alfonso Claudes. And but just the idea of like not, you have this sort of hobby perfectionism thing with like these perfect blends and everything like that. And it was just understanding that you don't have to do that. And the sort of trying to work with your brushstrokes and go for like these more harsh, like just blocking colors, but in such a way that the amounts you're putting on, like that changes the whole thing, and that kind of brings in a more was like what's the thing, impressionist kind of idea of it as well. And I've tried to make that look good, but I'm just not very consistent with it. But yeah, it's still it's amazing to have like all these different styles and ideas and everything like that. So I mean, one of my favorite art moments was seeing like Water Lilies by Monet for the first time in real life, and it was just like blew my mind. So yeah, like there's an awful lot of like actual art stuff, but yeah, we have some incredible artists, obviously, and John Blanche and everything, like a very scratchy style and all of these different ideas and inks, and it's incredible to find and try and pull just references and inspiration from whatever you see in life and trying different things. Like I think that's I there may be too many to keep going. This could be an entire podcast in itself.
No, we've got a long time.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there is that. But
I say about my style, I'm really good at colouring in 3D. Because every so often I think, I'm pretty good at painting. I'm going to try a bit of freehand on this rhino or something.
Oh, sure.
And I'm like,
don't like
that,
that's somewhere I really fall down. Like I can all this like trying to figure out lighting and everything like that, that seems okay. But the second it involves like actually having dexterity and doing it, like it just
Painting an
always
actual
sort of mess up. Yeah.
Because I find it's good to have inspiration from these great. I go on. I follow Alfonso and different people on Facebook, and I get his incredible on Instagram as well. And I get these incredible pictures, and I'm like, wow, look at that. He's just there's like green skin tone, it goes like red, and there's purples in there.
Yeah, it's just incredible.
Incredible. And I think I'll finish a model that I'm like really proud of, and I'll look, yeah, it's really good. And then I look at these, and I'm like,
yeah.
Clown.
Just, I think this is something that I've had to come to terms with, is that in my own right, I enjoy the things that I can do. Yeah. But comparing myself to some of these people who've been like literally painting for decades, or these historical grandmasters, they're masters for a reason, you know. Yeah. I just don't have like the time in my life to dedicate every single facet of my life to this thing.
Yeah, there comes a point, it's like you have to invest the time in and practice and get the right tools and lighting and time as well. I don't have that much time. Mm-hmm. That's part of how I choose to paint my models, also dictated by how much time I have to spend. I have and like a lot of people out there with younger people in the house, I have the time from when my wife goes to bed to that I have to go to bed. That might be minutes or 2 hours or whatever. So
no, of course.
But thanks for that. I talked about tell your favorite artists. The time I go to bed is your answer.
Yeah, very important.
Very important. Aodhan.
Yes, Andy.
What's your favorite genre of movie?
My favorite genre of movie. That's pretty tricky. I mean, obviously the easy one is like, should probably turn that off. Sci-fi generally, but it's difficult. Mainly, most things apart from horror. I find it quite hard to differentiate a favorite. I mean, like there was a huge part of my life where basically all I watched was rom-coms. So I can't necessarily say that like sci-fi.
Wrong with a good rom-com.
No, exactly. Like apart from maybe them all being quite patriarchal and bizarre at this point, now I've like come to terms with who I am. But it's just like it's pretty strange. But no, I would say like a really good sci-fi film, something that's like. I mean, obviously, Blade Runner has really captured my imagination when I was younger, and just like the idea, like I feel there's not really enough in the way of like good cyberpunk films, but just a good gripping technological thriller will get me through a lot of stuff. But I find at the moment, I mean, Yulia and I we watched a lot of French films, and just because she's a massive Francophile and they're awesome. It's really interesting to see like the philosophy of film and everything like this, and the way different directors and writers approach things, and how you can kind of tell, like, I don't know, more like the atmosphere and what's the word? Like the individuality of different countries' filmmaking, which is really interesting. I was like into sort of Korean and Scandinavian films a while back, and it's really interesting. I just love film. Like I really, when it comes down to it, as long as it's not making me feel horrible about myself, then it's wonderful.
Yeah, that's good. So could you recommend 3 foreign language movies that you'd recommend, like French or Korean or?
So I think one of my favorites. The thing is like, so foreign language films. Let the Right One In was definitely like a amazing piece. Obviously quite a bit older. Again, one of those problems where they did a Hollywood remake. So definitely catch the original. That was like crazy, but there were some really amazing like shots. Let's see, Headhunters as well. I can't remember what that's called otherwise, but it's with the guy who plays in Game of Thrones. What's his name? Nikolai. Again, so obviously this is very much on the spot. I'm trying to like think of my feet, but
this is happening. I'm very mean. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. No worries.
If you got any recommendations for Aodhan for foreign language movies, remember to subscribe and comment below.
Yeah, do. There was what Angela, I think it's a Luc Besson film. It's quite.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that's really interesting, and like suddenly it's a film, and then intercut with like these deeply philosophical sections, rather than having it like as a main run through. It is quite jarring in that way because it kind of switched between the story and then like this deconstruction. But that was really good. Yeah, no, I now like you've asked me, I'm really just completely drawing a blank on all that stuff.
Yes, that's you're very welcome. That's what happens with interviews.
Yeah, of course.
Talk for ages about it and then suddenly ask a question like, "What's my name again? I can't remember. What's happening?" Vodka.
Just squash.
Come away through lockdown. Thanks for that. That's good. Okay. Next question. What makes you build a force for a game? What makes you collect an army or a warband or a little?
I think it's mainly aesthetics.
Aesthetics. So the aesthetic of the model.
Yeah. I was always. I mean, I started off collecting like Imperial Guard when I was younger, and then realized how insane a force that was to collect at a young age with very little money. So that just trying to start off from there. But I got really into Eldar, and that's been my main sort of 40k love for a long time.
Yeah.
And just because like the sleek curved lines and everything, it's just very like interesting and different and kind of reminiscent of some. I had this book when I was younger that was like an art book of different sci-fi universes. So lots of like 70s style front book covers and all this kind of stuff, which was like really sort of alien worlds kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, just incredible. And so that I found that was very reminiscent of those and these sort of organic ideas that, but not from like a dark, like Geiger-esque way. You know, it's so
a old bleakness to them. The old book covers, wasn't it? It was like
yeah, but also sort of very, very colourful and very like. I just remember, was it there were some pictures from a book called Hot House. I never read the book, but yeah, they were just really alien, like just very different.
You don't get books like that anymore. It's like every science fiction book had like a spaceship.
Yeah,
like
sure.
An impossible spaceship just on the front cover.
No, of course. And yeah, so that kind of drew me to them. And then in the same way, when I ended up getting into Infinity, the reason was just there was a particular model in the starter set that was out at that point that really reminded me of when I was reading Appleseed. And I was just, this was at Salute a few years back, and I hadn't really found anything else that had intrigued me. And it's like, oh, well, that's an amazing deal. I'll take that because that's an awesome model. And then got into the system from there. And, you know, so that's something that's always been there. Like I've always been a like rule of cool kind of person. Like I can't sort of look at a system and go, oh, that's going to be working. It's like, oh, well, I'm just going to get all the models that I like. And hopefully at that point, I will have a force that works.
Yes. I mean, that's what I'm doing in mine. I say I'm just buying random models for my Infinity Force at the moment because I just don't know what anything is. Apparently, JB says that's fine.
Yeah.
Because they're all interchangeable. Just get what you like, paint them up, and it'll be fine.
Yeah, no, do it. I mean, like literally, they have a rule that anything can be proxied. Like as long as it's like it should be the right size of miniature, then and it's differentiate. You can differentiate it from your other miniatures and say like that's that one. Yeah. Then it's fine. Like that was really handy they brought it because they literally put that in as a rule. So you know.
I think that's probably true for most games, though, isn't it? If you're playing a friend.
Yeah, of course, but this is specifically within their tournament system. Yeah. They have allowed the proxying, which is helpful, but some people still frown upon it. But it's your hobby. Yeah. You know, it's like that's it. When it comes down to it, why would you let someone else dictate what you do?
Boom! Get on a t-shirt.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So it's not like I'm like hilariously outspoken about these things or anything.
Yeah. So what's your next army stroke project? What are you working on next?
I'm going to work on some Yu Jing for Infinity because I have most of the Nomad Force, and it's like very difficult to actually pick up things and work on it because I have so many in such a state of needing work on them.
Yeah.
Even though I've been collecting them for however long we've had Infinity at the club, and I still haven't finished like anything. But I recently redid it.
Project Aodhan.
Sorry?
I think I know your next project.
Was that finished stuff?
Finished stuff.
Yeah. Well, I did do some Bushido a little while ago and finished them. So like that's a start of my I finish things now situation. So yeah, but this is just a nice little. I've got the models from this starter box and some from a previous one, and it's just be nice to just get them sorted and not worry too much. I know like every time I pick up a model, I say this time I'm not going to worry too much and I'm going to get it done and it'll be finished really quickly. But I have an idea of I have a plan of how I'm going to do that this time, which is which is kind of freeing in its way because I'm going to make sure I stick to it. And
if I've discovered if I'm trying to get a project done quickly, you plan from like I get a bag, I put the paints I'm going to use for that project in the bag. I'll choose the undercoats that I'm going to use. Now I will plan ahead, and so I think the figures look better that way if you do put a bit of time planning what you're going to do rather than pick it up and go, all right, what colour these pouches going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I find that both ways have their merits.
Yeah.
Because I had this idea for like such an overarching thing for the force of Nomad stuff that I have. I've had a couple of different tests schemes.
Yeah.
And that'll be interesting going forwards. But then sometimes I just pick up a model and go like, that should be like this. Yeah. And it's even if I had a preconception of what I was going to do, like it was like, no, actually this is going to be better. So at the moment, one of the things I have been picking up as like just a mess around piece is there's a particular set of like tiny robots. And I originally thought, oh, I'll do them kind of similar to the box art, but with like my colors. And now I've decided that they're going to be like different statues.
Yeah.
So the one I'm working on at the moment is just going to be jade, like from the weapons or whatever. And then there's another one that's going to be bronze, and then one's going to be like porcelain. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to get the effects that I want, but I'm going to try. And if I don't, I'm just going to put them aside and like they'll be completed.
Yeah.
Be done. Like I'm now thinking that the best way to deal with this is like iteration rather than try and redo a model. Like I used to be a terrible one for like cleaning a model and then redoing it, but now it's just like a snapshot of your journey through what you're doing.
No, just keep pushing on.
Yeah, no, exactly.
If you don't try to paint them in that way, then you never will ever paint them in that way. You've got to try these things, and
yeah, of course.
You've learned something for the next time you paint in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Good work. So we're going to take another quick break, and we'll be back in just a second.